Hey guys, quick heads up on this one because I forgot to do it during the show itself. This one's going to be laid in with spoilers for episode 3, season 8 of Game of Thrones. So you have had all fair warning. Welcome to the Unwashed Asses, episode 110, recorded for Wednesday, May 1st, 2019. You know, I had a plan. that I was going to get caught up on content, and then I realized, no. I need to stick to the plan of regularly producing content. So Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Eyes Up Guardian on Tuesdays. That's our schedule. We're sticking to it. I'm recording in advance now. Might not always get them posted up at times because work's hitting the busy season. I'm getting my ass kicked and get home very, very sleepy. So I will try my best to get them uploaded on time. So yeah, bear with me. Again, apologize and thank you for your patience. But speaking of content being late and getting things up, I had toyed with the idea of doing Game of Thrones recaps, mostly because there was a very short-lived show put out by Scott Johnson and Justin Robert Young where every week they would do Game of Thrones recaps, and they did similar things for like American Gods, and even Tom Merritt and Brian Brushwood over on Cord Killers would do something like. There's just something I enjoy about listening to people, recap shows and give their thoughts and feelings on it. And while I'm confident I won't do it in nearly the same entertaining fashion, figure why not? Fuck it, I'll give it a whirl. Plus, there's only 4 episodes, including this one left. We're gonna start late. We're gonna start with episode 3. Because I'm not going to recap the past 2. You already know what happened, and you don't care. However, episode 3 just came out Sunday, and we have a little wait till episode 4, so fuck it, you're stuck with me. This was a lot of teasing leading up to this one. 1 and 2 were a lot of setup. It was aggravating the way that this last season of Game of Thrones was touted and advertised that, each show is going to be like a feature-length movie. Yeah, we're going to have fewer episodes, but they're going to be longer episodes. And 1 and 2 both clocked in at around 55 minutes, and each time they were over, I looked over to Rachel like, the fuck is this? The fuck is my episode? Why are they not advancing the plot? There's nothing happening here. And after the whirlwind that was season 7 of them just like, all right, fuck it. We only have 2 seasons left. We better start wrapping things up. It was just like, it was really moving and I was enjoying it and I was having a good time. And then season 8's like, all right, you've waited 1.5 years. We're back. And let's just be a big fucking cock tease for the first 2 episodes. But episode 3 is where shit was supposed to finally get real, where we were about to, progress the plot in meaningful ways and wrap up or at least move forward in something that's been, teased about since, season 1. Something that we've been, looking forward to for years and years and years, much like, Endgame and the MCU. The White Walkers, the undead, the knockoff Lich King army, or did R.R. Martin write this before Warcraft 3? We don't know because I'm not Googling it. Either way, there are very large parallels between the Lich King and the Night King and his army of undead. But unlike the Lich King, the Night King prefers to march his army south because he has this, not necessarily divine, but deeply rooted desire to wipe out all humanity. It's something I can identify with. So for years and years he's been building his army, marching it south. Last season they finally took out the wall thanks to a captured dragon, which more Wrath of the Lich King comparisons here, especially with the shots compared directly against the Lich King cinematic. But we're like, all right, they finally broke the wall. They finally moved south. What's next on their, grand tour south? Winterfell. And that's where episode 3 was, the Battle of Winterfell. And the Battle of Winterfell was mostly disappointing, in my opinion. I did not care for it. There was a hell of a lot of hype, and I have to wonder if that's part of the reason that I didn't like about it, was that there was a lot of hype, and it could not live up to it. Now, that's not an excuse, like, oh yeah, well, the bar was set impossibly high, and there's no way it could be as good as everybody was hoping it would be. But no, it was just disappointing for a number of other reasons, which we're going to detail here. First and foremost, as if you've been paying attention to the internet, people typically are pretty good about spoilers when it comes to Game of Thrones, except for episode 3, because everybody's eager to tear it to shreds. It was dark. It was very, very hard to see what was going on. And I get it. I understand that the battle itself, winter is coming or has come based on the clouds that roll in. Oh, sorry. Spoilers. I should have prefaced this. I'll put it in the show notes. Spoilers here and throughout. If you haven't seen it, maybe watch it beforehand. But yeah, I'll go back and do an edit here. Anywho, yeah, it was just dark. It was winter has come again. Yeah, I understand it's going to get dark. But in previous scenes with the Night King and the White Army, it's never been pitch black. And I've seen various people try to explain it away of like, oh yeah, well they blew a hell of a lot of CG, and every time you add in a layer of CG, it gets, muddier. And like, that doesn't make sense to me, just because of all the CG in like Marvel movies, for example. And most of those are bright and vibrant, and it doesn't make a lot of sense with that reasoning. It was intentionally left that way, I think. And the biggest reason I can surmise is kind of like what they did with Battle of the Bastards. They wanted it to feel frantic, and you wanted the audience disoriented as if they were really there. And while that can work for a human battle in like Battle of the Bastards, something that we've waited literal years for, it's a bad move, because we're there for every gory, visceral detail. We want to see everything that's happening. And to deny the audience because you essentially wanted to wipe Vaseline across the camera lens and then throw a handful of ash at it, it's not a good move. We start things off with the armies themselves. It's nighttime. We know the army's going to be there before the dawn, so yeah, it'll be a night battle. But we've had night battles before, and the Game of Thrones staff even compared it to like, oh yeah, it's longer and has a bigger budget than Helm's Deep. Helm's Deep was a battle filmed at night, and you could perfectly see everything that was going on with it, and it was released over 10 years ago. Not good for Game of Thrones. So again, it's at night. The armies are waiting. We have the Dothraki kind of sitting at the charge on their horses. Then we have the Unsullied behind them, and then pretty much everybody else, the allied people in the north, hanging out in the castle. And we can see their plan here, where they're going to send the Dothraki in first to take on the oncoming Whites. The Unsullied are going to do their 300-esque defense of Winterfell, and if shit really goes south, they're going to collapse into the castle, where they have erected all those barriers full of wood and dragon glass for the undead to impale themselves on. And it doesn't really take into consideration the Night King's dragon, but we do have Daenerys and Jon, kind of waiting off to the side. And this is where my first problem with the whole setup kind of arises. I know Night King has a dragon. They have 2 dragons. So even if you spend one dragon engaging the Night King himself, you can have another dragon just doing non-stop bombing runs of the Whites. Like, it made no sense to meet the armies of the undead on foot or even on horse with the cavalry. Because it's kind of like if you've ever played StarCraft. Yeah, you have the Zerg. The Zerg are going to rush. They're going to overrun. They've created the verb, the Zerg. Because, everybody knows the Zerg is the word. Or the verb in this case. Damn it, I fucked that up. So why put human lives on the line? Why set them up when you easily have, the best air support, if not the only air support in the world? And, they initially start off with sending the Dothraki out after the lady in red comes by and does this crazy awesome, like, hey guys, here you think flaming swords are pretty cool. So guess what? We're going to Oprah this shit. And you get a flaming sword. You get a flaming sword. And you get a flaming sword. And everybody got a flaming sword that was a Dothraki. And it was a fucking waste because the Dothraki go right out into battle. And it's a really cool visual because essentially we just see their, 5,000 candlelights in the dark get snuffed out one by one as we hear them screaming and the sounds of distant battle. And then before you know it, the Dothraki are gone. They are no more. They took that boat ride across the water and fulfilled the purpose that, we shouldn't fuck with water, much like we shouldn't fuck with the undead that live across the water. It's like, okay, well that was cool. It would have been nice to see. It's a good visual setup. Like, okay, yeah, they're the Army of the Light. They're fighting the undead, and we get an idea. We get a sense, like, because the Dothraki were terrifying warriors with Baratheon always saying, don't meet them in an open field. Well, here we have a big open snowfield, and the Whites are like, fuck you guys, and just eradicate them. So it sets up the premise that, yeah, they are deadly, but we already know this. And I don't know, like, spend 5 minutes, I guess, on that. I don't know. You could go either way. And it's just a very small, minor point of the overall clusterfuck of this episode. So at this point, we have the Unsullied, and then we have the front lines led by Jaime and Brienne and fucking Pussy Whitmoremont. And they're like, oh shit, it's fucking real. So as the Whites come finally rushing, the battle hits its fevered pitch where we can't see anything. It's all frantic. The camera is moving around very quickly. One CNN writer compared it to half these epic scenes of war ended up being like a bunch of rats fighting in a shoebox. Which, kudos to you, AJ Willingham. It was fucking hilarious, that. And she's a very witty writer. Like, I was very pleased. I might have to check her writing out more. Anywho. She's totally right. You can't see a whole hell of a lot what's going on, especially on the outside. So as the order of retreat goes out and the Unsullied are providing essentially cover for the armies to fall into Winterfell Keep, Lady Melisandre, again, steps up. She's like, oh, hey, audience, would you like to see what's happening? I'm like, yes, Lady Melisandre, show me the way, Red Lady. And she's like, got you, fam. And she fucking puts her hand on one of those barricades, begins some intense chanting. The show's building up its tension. The zombies are getting through. And then, boom, the big old fire pit lights up all around outside Winterfell. And yes, it's an effective strategy, but I praise it more for, oh, thank fucking Christ, we actually have light to see what's happening in the episode. So it's at this point that, everybody falls into Winterfell Keep, and then the zombies just kind of hang out. Much like when the fucking Fellowship of the Ring journeyed north with Jon, and they got stuck on that island. The Whites just kind of hung out on the banks of the shore there. It's like, okay, well, they're not moving. But already in my mind, I'm like, well, why aren't they moving? I understand they want to get damaged, but there's literally tens of thousands of them. You throw enough bodies on a fire, and eventually it's going to get snuffed out. Yeah, you do it one by one, they're going to get burned up. But you just fucking do a blanket, it's going to work. And then what happens? They make a bridge of bodies. I'm like, oh, there you go. Kudos. You finally figured it out. Because the Night King's not dumb, and we know they have a hive mentality, and he's really pulling all the strings here. So yeah, it makes sense that they're going to go with that strategy, and then they can continue zerging the castle. Now, at this time, Jon and Daenerys have been laying siege, but they can't seem to make a huge dent into the numbers just because there are so many. But again, had they not waited so fucking long to start burning up all the bodies, would they be in this situation? I don't know. Hard to say. But they then take flight to go fight the Night King, but there's a lot of clouds, which I took to understand as, oh yeah, winter's finally here. Might have been some crazy, X-Men storm powers that the Night King has that were never explained to us. We don't know. There's a very cool cinematic fight above the clouds, and again, it's very hard to see once you get away from the fire, especially when John is on Rhaegar and he's crashing through the trees and whatnot. It's cool. I'll give it that. It has cool points, but it would have been cooler if I could have seen everything in crystal clear detail. We then cut back, and the dead are storming the castle, and everybody's having a bad time. There's fire everywhere. The Hound is fucking losing his shit because 1, fire, 2, the undead, until his dad instincts kick in as Arya starts getting her shit fucking handed to her, and this little badass who's like, oh yeah, Lord of Death has many faces, and look forward to meeting this one. It's like, oh no, I didn't expect the face to be this bad and to be so many. And so she's running through the castle and playing a game of hide and seek with the undead, which I found to be a nice break. Like the tension was still there, but it was in a different form. It was more one of creeping dread rather than just outright excitement at seeing the battle and wondering who's going to die. And then it was a nice break from Brienne constantly screaming with every fucking sword swing. It's like, oh, I wonder if Brienne's still alive. Oh yeah, there's her screaming. She's still good. Just annoying. And it really broke the character for me that when under duress, she kind of breaks easily. So Arya gets away, and then she gets saved by the Hound and Beric, who ends up being the second death of the episode. And that's kind of where my other issue arises, is that we're in season 8. Fucker's gotta die. And part of me is wondering, like, I know they consulted with R.R. Martin about this to figure out what was going to happen in the last couple seasons, because he hasn't finished the fucking books yet. And I think the show was so bold with its deaths because in the earlier seasons, because it was pulling it straight from Martin. And now that they're kind of in uncharted territory, they're not as bold. Yeah, we got a lot of deaths. Like, here, spoilers, we're going to go through the list. We had Ed Tullett, who was the Night's Watch guy. Lyanna Mormont makes a fantastic last stand. And she was... So in our Discord, we had a little bet going by, I say we, it was just me and Rachel because nobody else wanted to participate. Like, okay, pick 3 deaths for this episode and we'll see who gets the most. And, I fucking nailed it. But she'll argue she nailed it as well. But that was your 4th bet, baby. No, you picked a bonus one. Doesn't count. So Lyanna Mormont, gets squished by a giant, which was nice. Beric dies saving Arya. Jorah Mormont finally eats shit, fighting off the Whites with Daenerys because she made a dramatically stupid move and decided to land her dragon, which, surprise, surprise, the Whites swarmed all over it like fleas on an untreated dog. Theon eats shit protecting Sir Cripple, what's his name? Bran Flakes. And then Melisandre decides to, at the end, take her necklace off and just die for reasons. But no, you had a lot of B tier and a couple C or even D tiers. But no one main. Like, I was really, really banking on Arya dying, and the show kind of set it up like where she got close a couple times, and she ended up being the unsung hero here, because as the undead override Winterfell, Bran and Theon, the Iron Lords, were hanging out by a spooky tree, waiting to try and bait the Night King. And as the Night King approaches, Theon and his band of do-gooders try to help Bran, who's like, LOL, whatever, I'm just gonna fucking pretend to be a bird for a bit. And this was, I guess, the biggest red herring for me in the episode, because I was expecting, like, all right, we all know there's 3 episodes left. It's not going to end here. If anything, he's going to summon in, like, the Eagles, like Gandalf, so the main heroes can evacuate and then rally at King's Landing to fight the undead. Instead, he does nothing. Or seemingly nothing. Like, pretty much just fuck all. Because the Night King and his goons all stroll in, and Theon rushes him and dies like the bitch he is. A redeemed bitch, I'll give you that. And Bran's just kind of sitting there doing nothing, and the Night King rolls up, and they kind of stare at each other. There's some sexual tension in the air. And then Arya comes in out of fucking nowhere. Like, she's been struggling against the undead this entire time, yet then she finds a way to solid snake her way past untold thousands of them to get the literal drop on the Night King, who, you know, does what I thought he was supposed to. Like, oh yeah, I've got you by the neck. Shit's about to go real bad for you, Arya. Because Arya's got her dagger in her hand. She's trying to stab him in the face. He's like, nope. And then she's all like, psych. Drops the dagger, stabs him in the gut. And the worst possible fucking thing that could happen happens. All the zombies die. Because they are a hive tied to the Night King. That dagger, sitting real deep in his gut, causes him to shatter. He explodes like diamonds in the sky, as Rihanna would say. And all the other zombies are like, oh, well, if that's what the Night King's into nowadays, I guess that's what I'm into. And they explode. And then the undead dragon that's kept Jon pinned down for 5 minutes, it explodes, or it falls over. It dies again. And Arya single-handedly saves Winterfell and wipes out years and years worth of plot development in one fell swoop. Let that sit in. Let it sink in. Let it soak it up. There's no more zombies. There's no more end of humanity threat progressing and working its way through the Game of Thrones. Our big bad is Pixie Haircut McGee down in King's Landing. She should not be the big bad. The big bad was the fucking undead army coming to wipe out everybody. But Game of Thrones like, nope, LOL, we've got those wiped out in one literal bullshit move. So aside from not being able to see anything, the show has wiped out any interest I have in continuing the series. Like, yeah, I'm going to finish it up. There's 3 episodes, but I'm no longer excited about anything. I don't give a shit about Cersei. I don't give a shit about the Iron Throne. I don't give a shit that she's boning Captain Hook over there. I don't care that Jon's eventually going to have to kill power-hungry Daenerys. Zombies are where my interest lied. And they've gotten rid of the zombies. They've gotten rid of my interest. So my prediction for the remainder of the season is, episode 4, that's going to be your setup episode. That's going to be your prep. Episode 5, there's your battle episode. Episode 6 is your epilogue, and it's done. And season 8 was just fucking garbage through and through. So that's how I'm calling it. How are you calling it? How do you feel about episode 3? But I don't think we're going to get too many more meaningful deaths. I just don't think we are. And is it wrong that we expect that now? Like a poor Roman peasant sitting in the stands of the Colosseum, looking at our favorites fighting for their literal lives, we want them to throw them away for our entertainment. And the fact that they're not doing so, we rise up in anger. Maybe that's the lesson. We're the monsters. And that by killing off the Night King and his army, Game of Thrones has killed off any expectations we have for meaningful conflict and resolution for the remainder of the season. I don't know. All I know is I'm going to keep buying packs of specially marked Game of Thrones Oreos, and buying an overly sugary beverage and sitting my fat happy ass down on the couch for the next 3 Sundays after work so I can watch and see the eventual disappointing conclusion to this show. So that's going to wrap it up. If you have your own thoughts, comments, concerns, criticisms, critiques, complaints, or otherwise just want to comment on the show or, what happened in Game of Thrones or your own predictions, drop us a line. theunwashedasses@gmail.com. And this year, help me out. Tell a friend they can get TUA wherever they get their podcasts. Where they come organic and fresh and GMO free. And if you want to take it above and beyond, head over to patreon.com/0and09. Pitch in $1 or $2 a month. And, it's a great way to say thanks. And I appreciate it. I appreciate you a hell of a lot more than I appreciate this last season. That's going to wrap it up. We'll talk to you on Friday. Blood for the Blood God.